First and foremost, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai Ba'Hashem Rukakwadash. Yahweh to this world ignorantly calls God. Yahushai to this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Ba'Hashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Qudash means holy. And that's on the Paleo Hebrew. Also give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. In today's video, I wanted to go into how America, Babylon the Great, is the reincarnation of ancient Greece and Rome. Right? Simply put, this is everything that happened in those Roman times, we're seeing it again. Okay, because this whole party life, I searched up Miami party and the whole concept of people getting together and drinking and being half naked, women half naked, and after that, people start hooking up. All this is of the world. And it goes back to the ancient Greeks and Romans. And the Most High doesn't approve of this behavior, okay, especially for the women. You women are not supposed to be out here, showing off your body. But, hey, this is Babylon the Great. And this is a country where anything flies. So let's read the description of Babylon in Revelation chapter 18 and verse 1. It says, "And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird." Right, so what is that talking about? It's going into how this place is full of everything that is abominable. Everything that is wicked is here in America. Let's actually read this in a different translation. "He gave a mighty shout, Babylon is fallen, that great city is fallen. She has become a home for demons. She is a hideout for every foul spirit, a hideout for every foul vulture, and every foul and dreadful animal." Right, so this place is infested with demons. Okay, and when your mind is solely focused on doing this, living this type of life, is because there's a certain demon that is attached to this. Especially when the women, all they focus is, these women got demons on them because, here it is, they could be in a complete winter state. Here it is, there's snow outside. Okay, 10 degrees outside, 0 degrees outside. And these women will still go with skimpy ass clothes to the club. Okay, walking around downtown with some skimpy ass clothes, freezing their bodies off. But that demon on them to receive that attention, that male validation, to get that, those looks is so strong that they just ignore it. They're like, F it. We need to go out there. So, we're literally at the end of the end, and this whole, especially in the major cities, you see it. Major cities is like the concentration of the wickedness. Everything is concentrated in the major cities because there's more people. And it all goes down to these parties. Okay, the Most High spoke about how, we're not supposed to be partaking in events like this. Right? Especially you women, man. A man can go, pop out to an event like this, every, so often. Brothers talked about, going to the clubs. But, we have wisdom. When it comes to you women, you've been strictly commanded to stay at home, to not let anybody see you, to take care of the family. But we know that, that's not going to enter in through any of the people of the world's ears. Because one thing I want anybody that hears this video to think about is that if you're trying to change somebody, you're fighting against all the influence, all the TV programming, all their peers, everything they've ever seen. Okay, that's what you're fighting against when you try to change somebody like this. So, in order for somebody to change and leave this type of lifestyle, it has to be divine intervention. Right? They have to be part of the elect. Because the spell casting, the wickedness, the demons that are on these people, it's too strong. You need Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushua to be able to combat that. But let's go to Isaiah chapter 47, because it talks about how this place is infested, with those demons, Babylon. So Isaiah chapter 47 and verse 10. I'll start at verse 9. I'll start at verse 8. It says, "Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. Right? So going into the mentality of these people, how they think that this place is never going to go down, this place is going to go on forever, right? We're protected. We have the greatest military, America. Well, guess what? But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, and one day, the loss of children and widowhood, they shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. Right? So destruction is going to come on this place. And one thing about that is it says because of all the sorcery and enchantments that the people up top do. Okay, when you look at people in this spirit, it is because the elites are literally doing witchcraft to get people in this mindset. Okay, think about that. They're literally doing witchcraft to get people in this mindset. Thus say the scriptures. And it's the same thing they were doing in ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Let's read a little bit of that. So 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 1 says, Not long after this the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and to not to live after the laws of God. Right? So, since the beginning, right, you've had these other nations trying to deviate, our people from the commandments of the Most High. And it says, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter, Olympius, and that in Gazarim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. Right? So these Greeks, these Romans, are trying to make our people follow, those strange gods of Jupiter and Olympus and all that Greek mythology, which people still follow to this day. When you look at the sororities and fraternities, that's based on Greek culture. It says, the coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful. The altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Right? So they had, these Gentiles were committing all types of orgies, in the temple, the holy temple. It says, neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbaths, days, or ancient fasts, or to profess himself a Jew at all. And in the day of the king's birth every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices, and when the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. Right, so they're trying to make our people follow, Bacchus, which when you go into this word revelings, it says that the Jews were, committing revelings. You go to Galatians chapter 5 and verse 21, it says, envyings, murder, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. Right, so if you do all these things, you ain't making it. And let's go into that word revelings and see what it means. Komos, which says a revel carousel, a nocturnal and righteous procession of half-drunken, frolicsome fellows who after supper parade through the streets with torches and music in honor of Bacchus or some other deity, and sing and play before houses of male and female friends, hence use generally of feasts and drinking parties that are protracted till late at night and indulge in revelry. Right? So that whole spirit, they were going on the streets celebrating, drinking, eating, half naked. That whole spirit that we see today is from back then. Right? Is from back then. So, the Most High ain't with us, man. And I always say, especially for you women, because you women are the ones that are in there, seeking that validation, undressed. But for all, you're not supposed to be in the spirit, of doing this, every single day. But let's go to 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 3. It says, for the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, when we walked in lasciviousness, lusts, excess of wine, revelings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries, wherein they think it strange that you run not with them to the same excess of riot, speaking evil of you. Right? So at one point before, the Lord put the Spirit on you, the Lord pulled you out of that darkness, We were all going towards the same thing. We were all, in lust and drinking and in those parties, right? Doing the same thing, hey, worshiping these false gods, white Jesus Christ. But Most High Most High had mercy and took us out. Lord willing, I'm a part of the elect. But the people that are still in that, they think it's strange that you run now with them to the same excess of riot, and they speak evil of you, right? So now that the people that used to know, they ask you, hey, let's go to the club, let's go do this, let's go do that, and you tell them, nah, I ain't really with that. They look at you like you're crazy. They think you're the strange one. They speak evil of you because you're no longer of this world. You're no longer acting as the world does. And these people hate that. They hate that because them seeing you change ultimately makes them feel some type of way. Makes them feel that, damn, I need to change and I haven't changed at all. But I highly recommend to go watch this movie, The Devil's Advocate. I think it's free on YouTube, if I remember correctly. But this movie, it shows you how the Al Pacino, pretty much being, I'm not gonna spoil it, but Al Pacino, being the devil, and the tactics he's used and what was being influenced, woman on woman, which that's something that people, they think is normal today. But let me search up one more thing. Feast of Bacchus. I think this just goes into, right, the Bacchanalia were Roman festivals of Bacchus, the Greco-Roman god of wine, freedom, intoxication, and ecstasy. They were based on the Greek Dionysia and the Dionysian mysteries, and probably arrived in Rome 200 BC via the Greek colonies in southern Italy and from Etruria, Rome's northern neighbor. Right, so it goes into ecstasy. Right, that's why people literally take drugs at these festivals and they drink and they think they're free and they have sex. Right, that's all the spirit of the heathen. So hopefully this is edifying. With that, and give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Rakakwadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom to your elect. Shalom.